The boys are back to chew the political fat, J.C. Polanco and O'Brien Murray. So let's ask this question. How is Mayor Mamdani doing?
Well, it warmed up, so the streets are getting clear. You know, the city has been a mess for weeks at this time. And it used to be you had to plow the snow. Now you've got to melt the snow. I mean, he was not ready for it. There weren't enough people volunteering and all that. You know, this is a guy who wouldn't even go to a new leader of the Catholic Church in New York. I sat in this church and talked about not going to Israel. I'm a survivor. I was a victim. I'm a survivor of the Catholic Church. I've never said that publicly before, but I was even hurt at the fact that this mayor would not show up and go to St. Patrick's Cathedral that day, and nor Kathy Hochul. She could have changed the Democratic Party schedule. She could have flown down and done this. The church is a major leader in this city, and he refused to go. That's indicative of where he's running the city and what he's doing. And he can't keep the budget straight. He goes from $12 billion to $6 billion.
Yeah.
What happened to $6 billion overnight?
Well, I'm sorry, Obed.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry about that. Well, I have to tell you, it's too soon to tell, but from what I've seen, it's meh. Like, it's, you know, I've been grading for 26 years. I'll give him a C- maybe as of right now. I hope he gets an A. The city needs the mayor to succeed. The snow removal was terrible. It was absolutely awful. I'm in the Bronx, and we can't even get out of our areas to this day. You know, we have a mayor who, quite frankly, missed, as you mentioned, the induction of our brand new cardinal in the city. And I think that there was too much blaming for the budget on the previous administration. And then he goes to Albany, and the numbers weren't exactly correct. It's, you know, it's amateur hour, and not to mention, there's been an onslaught of appointments that have, after we review, have had some very anti-Semitic posts in the past. So not impressed so far, but he has a lot of room to grow and grow into the role.
And his deputy mayor, his first deputy mayor, is from the de Blasio days. He should have had a much better understanding of what he had to accomplish. So you give him a grade at this point. It's still incomplete as far as I'm concerned. But between the budget, between his appointments, between the number of appointments he's had that have been questioned after they've been hired and either been questioned and put in a box on the side, or actually had to resign their appointments before he even took office.
Let me ask you this question. So he had a much ballyhooed press conference a couple of weeks ago where he attacked Eric Adams. He said the problem with the budget is ABC, and he blamed it, obviously, Adams' budget crisis, ABC. And yet, after doing that press conference, a week and a half later when he goes to Albany, the $12 billion gap suddenly becomes a $7 billion gap. So did $5 billion magically appear in a week and a half?
Yes, that's what happened. And that's what he told Albany. We were looking at some things. The Wall Street bonuses came in.
Do you believe that?
No, I don't.
Does the public believe that?
I don't think so. Well, I don't think the public believes that. I don't think the public is really focusing right now on this. The truth is it's amateur hour when you blame the previous administration and say that Eric Adams never said we were going to have a problem, when Eric Adams repeatedly said that the migrant crisis was going to leave a $12 billion hole in the city budget. And, you know, the buck stops with you now. Now you're in charge. Stop blaming Adams. Stop blaming former Governor Cuomo, and handle the issues yourself.
But he also hasn't clarified what the answer is and how the math changed. Is this the projections where he's going now to the end of the year? Is this just all of a sudden there was a miscalculation and we caught up overnight? To your point, Marcia?
I think some of it was the fact that they weren't factoring in the bonuses from Wall Street.
Right.
Well, but the bonus from Wall Street are what come in now, but still you have another 5 months at this point in the budget to figure out what we're going to do as New York City taxpayers. And they go to Albany and he wants to raise taxes on New Yorkers at the get-go. The city has a spending problem, not a revenue problem, as evident by a pickup of that much money from Wall Street.
I think this is just further example that, as of right now, it's clear, like I said here for over a year, he's well in over his head. And anyone with experience would have known to calculate these numbers correctly before crying wolf. And now, next time this happens, we won't believe it. That's the issue.
So here's the issue. He campaigned against both Eric Adams and obviously Andrew Cuomo, but he wanted to replace Eric Adams as mayor. So the campaign's over. It's been over since November. He's been mayor since January 1st. At what point does it stop being anti-Eric and start being Zohran Mamdani?
I think he's going to try to pin this on Eric Adams as long as he can, because that's his excuse. It's a spending problem that he is now going to have, because if there's a budget deficit today and he wants to increase spending and then figure out how he's going to raise revenues again, he's going to raise taxes on New Yorkers to spend more money. How about getting spending under control and not begging for more money?
Wait a second. So here's the thing. So the Citizens Budget Commission on Friday came out with a letter to the mayor where basically they said in the letter, you have to revamp how a city does business. You have to make the agencies more efficient. You have to employ technology. And they had a number of other suggestions. But the bottom line, all of those add up to shrink the size of the workforce. How is a mayor who was elected with the support of the Democratic Socialists of America decide to lay off workers?
Well, he can't. He wants to, what they're asking him to do is to employ a New York City a la Doge. And you can't do that in New York City. And you can't do it as a Democratic Socialist. The reason why is that
can't you? I mean, the government would be more efficient and cheaper.
I know, but he won't have the will of the city council, which many of them are progressives. He won't have the support of his base. And whenever a leader loses his base, he loses control.
But doesn't it make sense?
It makes sense. A lot of things make sense. The city should have elected a centrist for mayor. Well, we didn't do that. And now we have a situation where we have a utopian for mayor. And he's promised so much that the city's going to be very disappointed if he starts cutting jobs. And quite frankly, he will lose his base. And to something you mentioned a little earlier that Obi was talking about, it is part and parcel of what some of the weak leaders do when they go ahead and blame the prior administration. We saw that in President Trump, that until last week was still blaming former President Biden for all of the budgetary issues and all of the problems around the world. It was all Biden, similar to what we're seeing now with Mayor Mamdani.
If you look at what's going on in the city employment history, it has gone up and it has then come back down. What has only been what they've been trying to do is, of course, add more to pre-K for teachers as we need as a program under Bill de Blasio. One of the only good things I think he did as mayor.
And it's going to be adding teachers under 2K.
And don't forget, the classroom sizes have shrunk too. So again, more teachers there too as well. So when you're talking about the teaching force, we need more teachers. Yes, no question about it. Where are we going to cut employees from? And I don't see this mayor wanting to outsource things, wanting to cut people. In fact, he wants to increase and have more people working for the city, except when they're shoveling our snow because you couldn't hire enough.
At what point does the city have to say we can only spend X number of dollars and stop raising taxes?
Well, see, this is the issue.
That's not New York City, Marcia.
No, we have a budget
At some point, people are tired of paying.
Well, they're not. Obviously, they voted for a socialist for mayor in November.
Yeah, but
and many of us
they didn't understand what socialism means.
No, I think we made it clear in the show. I think we made it clear on your show what's happening here. You have a class president that offers chocolate milk with pizza and candy every day for lunch and all-day recess, and the class elects him for president of the class. That's what you had here in November. Don't be surprised when you can't have chocolate milk every day, and you can't have pizza every day, and recess won't be 8 hours. So that's what the city's going to have to deal with.
How many companies are going to come to New York when the costs are going up, when those that are making more than $1 million are going to be taxed more? They're going to stay in Florida. They're going to leave to Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Nevada, states with no income tax. Betsy McCoy's talking about eliminating the income tax in Connecticut. At this point, imagine for people living in Connecticut and commuting to New York with no commuter tax and avoiding having to pay New York City taxes. This is the problem. New York City has a spending problem. It must get it under control. And there has been no mayor that has been elected in recent years. Eric Adams did it to a point, but for the most part, nobody, Bill de Blasio hasn't been doing it, and this current mayor is not going to do it. They're going to spend and go to Albany for more money. But that's the problem.
The problem is that you have
about 30 seconds left.
Well, it's not going to happen. You have a very socialist, progressive wing of the Democratic Party running the show now. The idea that you're going to cut and not raise taxes on the wealthy is going to be an issue that we're going to have to just deal with unless New Yorkers start voting centrist again.
He has the Senate that we have here. Your previous guest, that is number 2 in the Senate and leaving, that is in control. He didn't have that before with de Blasio.
We have to leave it right there for now, but our conversation does continue right after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. We'll be right back.